Hello, 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 everyone. How are you doing today? I hope I find you well and in good spirits. Welcome to Jamaica 411. So happy to have you join me, keeping me company as usual. Thank you so much for your support, all of you who have been supporting this channel by sharing, by liking, subscribing, and leaving your comments. Now, have I got a treat for you? I was looking up Mr. Francis, Rupert Francis, in the hope to get a photograph for a video I had planned to do. And in the process, decided to click on news to see what I find. And I came upon this Gleaner article, which was published January 28, 2024, just after the Miami protests by these so-called call to action people who claim they're operating on our behalf. Biggest propaganda ever. Anyhow, Gordon Robinson was the columnist who wrote the article. Gordon Robinson, some of you may know, is an eminent attorney at law. Not one of them lazy ones, certainly one that likes to do his research. So when I saw this article, I know Gordon went and looked into this particular group, and he came up with some information that I think you're going to find very, very interesting. And I want you to pay close attention because I'm going to read the entire article for you. But I want to know if you notice anything about the article, if something comes to mind. I'll read it now, and at the end, what I will do is come back to wrap up and take you out of your suspense. All right? So just listen to me reading what Gordon Robinson said in his article of Sunday, January 28, 2024. Let's listen. By Gleaner columnist Gordon Robinson, called When Tribalism Reaches the Diaspora. It was published Sunday, January 28, 2024, which would have been after the demonstration that was held in Florida. So Jamaica's bitter, divisive, tribal politicking has spread to Kingston 21. Jamaica woke up bleary-eyed on December 27 to learn that one Rupert Francis, chairman of a group with the fancy fandangle name of Jamaica Diaspora Crime Intervention and Prevention Task Force, had written to Jamaica's USA ambassador. The letter listed the task force's concerns about Jamaica's increasing corruption and violent crime, plus government's alleged failure to honor promises to the diaspora regarding involvement in the political process. Let's pause here for a moment and take a stock of what they said, right? They are going to protest and bring down the economy, right? Because the government promised them that they were going to be involved in the political process. Something that the people in this country rejects. And even though the people of the country rejects this idea that the diaspora should be involved in our parliament and so on and vote, because the government promised them that they would vote, promised them that they would get a seat in the Senate and all kind of something. And the people in Jamaica rejected that. They know the people rejects it, but yet they are insisting that the government should bypass what the people want and give them what was promised to them. Isn't this requesting and asking the government to be corrupt and undemocratic? So here is evidence that what they were doing was not on our behalf. It is selfish. It is their own selfish desire to participate in the political process. But what really is the problem? Let me tell you what the problem is. They want to participate in our political process without renouncing their citizenship and without having to remove themselves from where they are in their comforts back to Jamaica. The government had promised them that they wouldn't have to, that they would change the law and change the constitution to accommodate them, because that's the only way it could be done legally, right? And now it is impossible because the people don't want it. Yet they are insisting that the government should do what they promise against the interests of the people. Isn't that corrupt? You and your band of brothers want the government of Jamaica to use its authority, because if it's going to ignore the people and what the people say that they want for their country, they're going to have to use their authority to make it happen so that you and your interests can be accommodated against the wishes and the interests of the Jamaican people. Undemocratic and corrupt. That's what you are asking the government to do. Let's continue. Jamaica's diaspora resides mainly in USA, 1.1 million, UK, 400,000, and Canada, 309,000. South Florida as home to USA's largest Jamaican immigrant community is what's meant by Kingston 21. In 2020, Nonprofit Migration Policy Institute estimated there were over 336,000 members of the diaspora in Florida, with most in South Florida. Rupert Francis, a South Florida resident, said the letter was written on behalf of concerned Jamaicans in Jamaica and the diaspora and was a call to action. The letter threatened protests and to seek redress, whatever that is, from Jamaica's international partners. Rupert told the Gleaner, the protests are to bring attention to government's failure to control crime and corruption. Rupert also said he'd be asking donors to review where their money is spent. What was what Mr. Gordon said in his article, as well as he might. Wasn't this an astounding piece of revelation of the intent of these band of brothers? That because the government failed to carry out the promise that it made to them when they were in opposition, right? To allow them to sit in the Senate without renouncing their citizenship and without having to live in Jamaica, right? Because of that, they were now prepared to go to the donors and bring the donors' attention to how money is being spent in the country. Why? Because they want the donors to cut off the expenditure from the government. And these are the people, who say that whatever you see them doing with the protest, they are acting on our behalf because they want to bring an end to corruption, and they want to bring an end to the crime problem and so on. That's a damn lie. That is not what they are about. That is not what motivated them. Had the government gone and somehow named somebody in the Senate, which of course would have been challenged and have them removed so it couldn't work, and in order to get them on the Senate, being American citizens, continue to being American citizens, they would have had to change the Constitution. That has to come to us for the vote. So it wasn't going to work, but they don't care. They don't care. They want the government to put them in there regardless of what the Constitution says and what we say, what we want for our country. And we pay the taxes and we put the government there. How the government will represent them and them never have no vote in Jamaica. You know, see, these people crazy. So they are going to bring down the government by turning away the donors, turning away the international partners, and in that regard, the economy would now be in problems, and the people would now be at the government about it. The government would fall, and that would complete their revenge. Now, why are they going through all of that? Now, this is a very important question to ask, because if the government and the opposition were in agreement that there should be no person sitting in the parliament unless they renounce their dual citizenship, if they were in that agreement, then what would have been the point in them doing all of this? What would be the point in protesting? Because they would have got nowhere. But they did embark upon it, and it can only be because they believe that by doing what they're doing, they will get somewhere. We believe that the only reason why they're doing this, it's because they were promised, we believe, by the risers in the PNP, Bunting and Golding, that they can make it happen for them. Remember, Mark was there talking about diaspora people should have the right to represent to have dual citizenship and sit in our parliament. Remember, they went and promised these people that yes, them promise you, and them say it now happen, but we are promise you, right? And that was how now all of this plan came about, because everything about what it is that they are doing has a hallmark and the signature of the Bunting and Golding sabotage plan that they used against the PNP to elevate themselves into the leadership. All of that you see that they are doing is coming from the Bunting and Golding playbook. Let me continue. In that regard, Francis served notice on the ambassador of plans for countrywide protests at offices managed by the Jamaican government in Miami, Washington, D.C., New York, Canada, and United Kingdom. The letter drew immediate response from government and diaspora members with contrary views. His concerns were labeled politically motivated. Global Jamaica Diaspora Council and its youth arm accused him of trying to embarrass government. Gleaner reported that Nathaniel Peat, elected representative for UK South of the Global Jamaica Council, said the document undermines efforts to solicit investments. And that is precisely why they choose to have these protests abroad, because they want the investors and the donors and the travelers to stop investing, stop donating, and stop traveling to Jamaica. That now will bring down the Jamaican economy. But the plot goes even deeper than that, because by bringing up this business about our diaspora family only being good enough to send a barrel and send the money to Jamaica, but they are not allowed to sit in the parliament, that is all designed to rile up the diaspora, right? In the hope that some number of them will stop sending the money to Jamaica because we insult them. That's what that is about. It is a well-orchestrated plot and ploy to bring down the country's economy. And who does that benefit? Who benefits the most if the economy crashes? Who else more than Bunting and Golding? The people who spent $650 million to put themselves where they are, and they need to get back that money. They need to get to Jamaica House. It's not a maybe. For them, it is a must. And they will do anything, employ any strategy to bring that about. So their intent was to cripple the economy totally. These evil elements in the diaspora claiming that them doing all of this on our behalf. Can you imagine? Anyway, let me continue. The Junior Affairs Minister insisted diaspora members enjoy an unprecedented level of engagement with government. Over several past decades, Rupert and 10% of Jamaica's population have left our shores to pursue happiness and opportunity in lands allegedly of milk and honey. I've no problem with that. It's their choice, their lives. I see no reason, however, that they should then seek to do anything that might endanger whatever happiness or prosperity those of us who chose or had no option but to remain have achieved and wish to maintain. You may not see the reason, Gordon, but they obviously do. And it is their intent to do just that, to disrupt the country because they know what is in it for them if they succeed. They would not have been doing this unless they know there is something at the end of it for them. And that is how we know that they were promised something in exchange for what it is you see them doing, protesting against the country and planning to go to donors and tell the donors not to give us any money. And who else could have made them that promise? Who else is in a position to make their dream come true? If not the government, who else? And I know it's going to be difficult to believe that anybody could be so wicked to the island, especially professing their love for the country. But I want you to consider this. Let us say, for argument's sake, that nobody didn't promise them anything. So they just decide that they are going to go out there and tell the donors, don't donate. They're going to go out there and protest, and the economy come down. How would that get them what it is that they want? There's nothing for them to gain by that, because they would have gone, succeeded in bringing on the economy of the country, and then still be in the position that they're in. So there is absolutely no way that make any sense. That would be just like a waste of time, right? So there must be something in it for them to take the actions that you see they're taking. And the only way what it is that they want can be brought about in Jamaica is if they have political support. Because to bring it about, laws will have to be changed, the constitution will have to be amended in their favor. And that can only be done in the Parliament of Jamaica. And the only two parties that can bring that about is the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party. And already they're not looking to the JLP to bring it about. So where else the hell could they be looking? You see what I've been saying now? You understand now? Okay, great. Let's continue. Oh, and by the way, before we continue, please remember to give the video a like, a thumbs up. You see that thumbs up button, and also subscribe, as well as leave your comments. I want to hear what you think about all of what it is I'm saying. By all means, have concerns about conditions back home. By all means, express those concerns through Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, set up in 2018 to replace the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board as government's advisor on diaspora affairs, or express those concerns directly to government. By all means, invest in Jamaica or not, as the spirit moves you like anybody else resident elsewhere. By all means, if you haven't renounced Jamaican citizen, fly home to vote. But don't mistake concern for a right to recklessly risk causing damage to the nation you chose to leave. So after much blather, including Rupert's boast that he's receiving widespread backing and his activism is resonating with the broader diaspora community of hundreds of thousands South Florida diaspora members, 70 placard bearers showed up outside the Jamaica Consulate General's Miami office. No protests were mounted in Canada, Washington, New York, or the UK. Now, let me break here for a moment, because what you're looking at, I'm not an expert in propaganda, not at all, but I do believe that what you're looking at here is classic propaganda. These band of brothers needed to justify what it is that they're doing to, for the first time in the history of this country, launch a protest against the people of this country. They need to justify it. And so by doing so, they claimed that they have thousands of people who are backing them in Jamaica and thousands of people backing them in Florida, and they were going to bring them out. When they fail to do so, they then claim it's victory. 70 people turn up, but they claim victory, and they are now going to move on to New York. You see, the objective is not to do anything for us. They are on a mission. They were put on a mission, we believe, by Bunting and Golding, to embarrass the government and bring down the economy in order to elevate themselves to Jamaica House. Why else would a failed protest be claimed to be a success? If not to enable them to continue with the action, because the objective is not to benefit us. The objective is to bring down the economy, and the economy cannot be brought down with one protest action. There has to be many, and they have to believe and get the PNP people who live abroad in the United States, Canada, and the US to believe that this is something that they are doing for the benefit of the people of Jamaica. Those protesters were being duped by a sinister plot to bring down the economy of this country, to do the opposite of what they think that they're out there to do. Let me continue. Rupert's task force was formed in 2016. In July 2017, Rupert told JIS News that the task force pooled professionals from a broad spectrum to aid Jamaica's fight against crime. According to the JIS, Rupert said, "We will bring to bear the criminal justice operators or professionals, whether in psychology, sociology, and any aspects of these professions that can help anyone to understand why crime exists, how it exists, reasons it exists, and how we can stem it." Also, we would be introducing various aspects of law enforcement that have worked in the past from the community, social, political, and economic levels. Warm to this, Rupert? Well, Gordon, I hope you don't mind if I butt in and see whether I can provide you with that answer instead, since we're not going to get that from Rupert. The task force that he was bringing in, remember, the task force was formed. It's either on behalf of the government, because it came out of the Diaspora Conference. Every time there's a Diaspora Conference, the Biennial Diaspora Conference held in Jamaica, every time they have a conference, something usually comes out of it. And we believe that this task force came out of the conference that was held in 2016. We also believe that it wasn't random. Rupert, as well as Herb, we understand our labor rights, card-carrying labor rights. So what I believe is that they and the government had this plan to set up this task force. They never announced it because, of course, they don't want the PNP to do it, right? And eventually, when they got to power in 2016, they established the task force because it was established October of 2016. They met with the Minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith. They met with the Minister of National Security. They met with the Minister of Justice. And they were planning to bring in all of these professionals from the diaspora to descend on Jamaica to help solve the crime problem. Now, you don't have to ask what effect that, if it was done, would have on the morale of the police, men and women in this country. And you know, right? At least we ought to know that a demoralized police force cannot solve crime. I am sure that when the government went to the security apparatus and they discussed these matters, they shut it down and said, we already have professionals here. We already have police here who know the conditions. We already have psychologists here. We already have sociologists here. So why do we need to bring them from abroad to come and tell us what caused crime when we already have studies to tell us these things? And so the government would have had no option. If the security advisors are telling them no, lawyers must have been telling them no, the security forces must have been telling them no, so they could not go ahead with the plan that they had prior to the elections to bring in this particular task force, crime task force, of a variety of professionals in the diaspora to come and work with our security forces. That had to be shut down, and that was the end of that. In 2017, Rupert's task force members included LAPD Homicide Division Chief Captain Peter Whittingham, Senior Intelligence Analyst Herbert Nelson Jr., and former Winnipeg Police Chief Devon Clunis. Are they still members, Rupert? If not, why not? According to JIS, task force members visited in October 2016 on a fact-finding and project planning mission. They met with ministers of national security and justice. How the relationships are sour these days, Rupert? 7 years ago, Rupert's task force had big plans. They were going to roll out an intelligence fusion center, create a Safer Cities program, work with the Justice Ministry to reduce court backlogs, offer assistance in cyber security, and create a program for at-risk youth. What happened to these grand plans, Rupert? Are you protesting against yourself? In 2017, Rupert advocated community and church should be involved in crime fighting. The people cannot get anywhere, especially with the current spurt in crime and murders, especially against women and children. He said, we have to get them involved as stakeholders for them to understand this is something that affects all of us, not just some of us. How come you don't protesting against church and community, Rupert? Did your task force fail to get them involved? Why? Yes, Gordon, that's exactly what happened. They failed to get them involved because the government was not engaging them. So they were attempting other means to get involved by reaching out to the church and communities, and they weren't buying. Everybody was logged on to the state of emergency because it looked like something that could work. In 2017, Rupert said the diaspora takes very seriously its role in the process. Quoting Rupert, we want to make sure people understand that we will never forget where we are coming from. We do believe in it, and we want to make sure it's a safe place to be. We are one Jamaica, and we must speak with one voice for one purpose, for the enhancement of Jamaica and ridding our country from all this criminal activity. I think that if we all get together and put our hearts and hands and minds together, we will be able to resolve these issues. How many voices are you encouraging us to speak with now, Rupert? Why the change of heart, hands, and minds? Did you expect crime, after 45 years journeying to this chronic, to be fixed in 5? What did you do from Kingston 21 to help fix it? Perhaps many who choose to go are nostalgic, but prefer to critique from afar rather than return and fight the good fight with us. We don't read about crime in the news. We see and feel it every day. We don't need Rupert and friends living in Kingston 21 making political demands of government. Your opinions are welcome, but don't encourage investors to go elsewhere. Don't mount protests to embarrass Jamaica. Thanks very much for your advice, Rupert. We will take it from here. Peace and love. Now, as you know, it is never wisdom to rely on a single source for information. So, to check whether or not the columnist, Gordon Robinson, got it all right, we are going to repair now to an article written by the Caribbean Life, quoting from the letter that was written to Audrey Marks by Rupert Francis. So let's read what they said. You will recall that Gordon Robinson said that Francis has threatened to go to the donors to tell them that they need to look into the monies that they are sending to Jamaica, and they were going to approach our international partners Well, this is the quote coming from the letter, according to Caribbean Life. In the letter, Dr. Francis wrote, "I wish to inform, and by extension, the Jamaican government, that the diaspora will engage Jamaica's international partners to seek redress of our grievances. These international partners will include donor countries and organizations and congressional and parliamentary committees." So it's more than what, it's even more than what Gordon Robinson was telling us. These band of brothers telling us that they're doing all of this for our benefit are really setting out to mash up our country. So in trying to justify what they propose to do, right, to mash up this country, Caribbean Life reported that the letter highlights some of the reasons that they are giving now for the planned demonstration. According to the letter, the increasing state of public corruption, the high level of violent crime, the government's failure to provide service delivery, unfulfilled promises to the diaspora regarding its involvement in the political process, and the legal defense that the diaspora members do not have standing to sue the government. All the court them are real against, the court made that decision, Our court, the Supreme Court, when Rattigan brought the matter about the Kamina Johnson donation, right? For when she was trying to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, right? The court decided that Rattigan had no standing. The man live a foreign, nothing to do with him. And now them putting it a letter, so them are going to mash up a country because our court make a decision that Wilfred Rattigan had no standing in bringing the matter. And is that it going to mash up a country for? But these are some lawless people. Listen to what the man says. Francis noted in the letter also that certain diaspora members will lawfully and peacefully stage protests outside Jamaican embassies, consulates, and other government buildings in Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom. It is anticipated that the demonstration will attract the interest of the foreign media, the letter noted. They wanted this to attract the attention of foreign media, which means that this was never intended to be about Jamaica and our problems. If it was, why are you carrying the country's business on foreign soil? Because you wanted to attract the interest of foreign media. Why? Because you want people to stop donating, you want the investors and investment to dry up, and you want the diaspora to stop sending their money to Jamaica, and that would cripple the economy and bring it down. You hear Mark Golding himself say it, that Englishman, that it's the diaspora mind way. And if them stop mind way, what would happen to the country? Right? He emphasized the importance of the money coming from the diaspora, hence the importance to them of stopping it from coming, if they can, to bring down the economy, and the desperate Jamaican people will now turn to them, and that is how them hope to find themselves into Jamaica House. What an evil set of people. These are a selfish, self-centered, wicked, and evil set of people who will do anything, destroy anything that is in their way of them getting what they want. And that's what they are. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and leave your comments. Until next time, take good care of yourself and walk good.